Hello, and welcome back to the Workshop Therapy Podcast, the space where we break down the tools. You see what I did there? Tools you need for personal growth, mental well-being, and building a balanced life. I'm Tamara, and I am hosting today with Andrew.
Smooth. That was much better than
the first time.
Than the first one. It was still a little bit chat GPT-ish.
I know.
It was better.
It was better.
Yes.
Less chat GPT.
Yes. So there's a pre-show on this one, which there usually isn't when it's just us. But
it makes me uncomfortable when you want me to do things like be the first one to talk.
So you can watch or listen to the pre-show now, which is the initial attempt at recording.
I'm sorry for you if you do.
It's fine. We talked a little bit about the house and the weather.
Yep.
And then discovered that we were using the wrong mic. And so every time I coughed, it didn't mute. Anyway. So, brief update on the house. Well, I guess brief update on everything. We have walls up. Having now stood structural insulated panels with a crew, I think we could do it faster next time, but I don't think there will be a next time. Not for us anyway. Not for our house. Hopefully this is the one and only.
Yep.
After the episodes of Burnout that we talked about. This is, I guess that's why we took a holiday, which was nice. We abandoned our children with the in-laws for a couple days.
We did. It was really nice. That's the first time we've been had a holiday as a couple away in over 4 years.
More than that.
It's like pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think we had a holiday.
I mean, that being said, it did end with our...
It did end with water pouring. Yes, it ended with water pouring through from the roof.
In our suite. In the hotel. Yeah.
From the room above.
That makes it sound very... Clearly, it was not great.
Wasn't the best. I mean, it wasn't a terrible hotel until the water started pouring through the roof.
When
from
the water
above.
started pouring through the roof, that was the end at 12:30 at night.
Yep.
Yeah. But it was nice to get away.
Nice to be back.
Mm-hmm.
But nice to get away too. Yeah, so that was a good thing about our Christmas break is that we were able to get away from home, have a break. Change is as good as a rest, they say. I did a whole bunch of projects for the in-laws, fixed stuff, so I wasn't bored.
We got really sick. I guess you didn't. The rest of us did.
Yeah, I was never sick.
The rest of us got sick.
Not really sick. You just had colds. It's not like you were throwing up or anything.
No, I just couldn't breathe out of my nose for 2 weeks. Severe sinus pain. Thought I should go to the doctor to be evaluated. But we live in Canada, so what's the point?
How is that different than normal?
Oh, good grief. So, have you ever found yourself stress scrolling, binge watching, or comfort eating and wondering, is this self-care or am I just avoiding my stress?
I don't know. Please tell me more.
This episode is for you.
That was a smooth transition from our regular conversation.
I was tired of it. We'll be exploring how self-care isn't just about bubble baths and spa days, Andrew.
Oh, yes.
But includes setting boundaries, managing stress, and making choices that nourish us. Okay.
Sorry, there was a brief pause there because our son came in.
Okay, so today we're going to unpack the difference between real self-care and...
Self-indulgence.
That's right. How each one impacts our well-being and practical ways to build sustainable self-care habits.
Sounds so professional.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is something that we've had conversations about a number of times, and I've talked about in my master's classes a few times as well, is just the difference between self-care and self-indulgence.
Would you like to define those two terms for us, please?
So the difference between self-care and self-indulgence.
No, I said defined.
Define self-care?
The terms, yes. Define the terminology so that we're clear on what we're discussing.
Okay.
Why are you laughing at me?
So self-care is taking actions or building habits that have a net positive on your life, whereas self-indulgence would be something that may bring temporary satisfaction, but usually doesn't have a net positive on your life, and you actually usually has some sort of net negative.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So self-care is what can help to prevent burnout.
Yeah.
Whereas self-indulgence often actually increases the problem. It's like drinking pop when you're thirsty, right? It doesn't actually.
Yeah, well, it doesn't always increase the problem, but it
Over
doesn't
time,
change.
what I mean, like over time, it's not going to, it can have a negative.
Yeah, it has no positive effect,
No positive.
and often has a negative effect in some way. Yeah, so a lot of times people, like you bring up the spa and the bubble bath, and there's nothing wrong with spas and bubble baths. I mean, I'm a frequent user of neither, so
Yeah.
I know. I mean, we don't even have a bathtub in this house.
No, we didn't.
We have a shower. Just to be clear.
We are clean people.
Yes, we are clean. It's just not soaking in the bath for hours.
Not actually clean anyway, so it's okay.
There's your personal neuroticism throwing through. Anyway, so but you have, like the people who just, I have to have my chocolate ice cream before going to bed because that's my self-care. And that's not self-care, that's self-indulgence. That's doing something that satisfies a craving or and the problem with these self-indulgent habits is that we allow them to develop into bigger problems.
Right.
So
yeah. So often things, comfort food, like you just talked about, retail therapy is super common. And that doesn't have to be going to a store. That can be spending lots on Amazon or wherever your online stuff, your online game, whatever it is. Escapism.
Good thing buying tools isn't retail therapy.
Yeah.
You roll your eyes and you have a new Cricut over there, so don't.
That was Christmas.
That being said, I bought it for you too, so it was my retail therapy.
Yeah. So there's just lots of those types of things that aren't necessarily a bad thing, and a little is okay, but when you're using it and calling it self-care problem.
Yeah, ice cream.
Yeah.
Ice cream's fine. But if you're eating ice cream every day, it has a negative effect on your body and your diet and your life. And these negative things accumulate into mental health problems, into physical health problems, that encompasses everything.
And they start simply. This is something I've thought about and I actually talked about in a couple of papers. And we've talked a lot about is a lot of it can start off as you were rewarded for doing things as a kid. Right. And so you look at, like, for instance, every time I performed, when I started performing when I was young, I got a new outfit because I was growing all the time. Right. And so I got, you need a new outfit. It's time for music festival, new outfit. Well, then as I got older and went into performance as a major, I performed a lot more, and sometimes several times a month. But I felt like I needed a new outfit every time because I wasn't, like, it was my reward for doing it. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that was definitely something I had to kind of, I don't think I did. I think I was really good at finding things that were on sale and getting like one or two, like, I got a new necklace for this time or a new thing. And I don't even think I realized I was doing it. That was just how I coped in the moment with what I was.
I mean, to be honest, you still do that.
I still do it. No, I do. I know. I do. And I think there's lots of things like that. Like, I know I was conscious in high school of...
That's good. It's good to be conscious in high school.
When I passed an exam, a lot of my friends went out and got like Dairy Queen or chocolate bars or something. And I remember being like, I'm not going to do that because I don't want food to be my reward. But I went out and bought clothes. And I still do that. Like, that is still a problem for me because I feel like I felt like it was self-care. It was looking after me for doing something good, or it was my reward. And so that's very tied into things for lots of people. So please don't listen to this episode thinking that we have this together, because we don't. Clearly.
But I do, because I don't buy anything I don't need to make myself feel better.
No, we don't have 2 3D printers and multiple tools sitting unused.
Hey, the one 3D printer's the boys.
Yes,
the lots of tools sitting unused.
Yes.
Because I don't have anywhere to use them right now.
You have a shop and a heater, and you could have put things together, and you have not.
Yeah, because I'm doing my master's in building a house.
Your master's is on hold now.
And I'm building a house.
Uh-huh.
I'm being accused.
Yeah, I was working full time and doing my master's.
Moving on.
No, I think you're right. Like, I think there's lots of things that we think of as self-care. And definitely growing up in the 90s, it was touted as retail therapy and spa days and very materialistic things, and trying to shift that in your head is difficult.
Yeah, and I was going to kind of make a tongue-in-cheek comment about the buying a new outfit that I've kind of shot myself in the foot, because I know when we first got married, you were very much about the sale, not necessarily the product.
Yeah.
And so I
Well, that's how I could afford to do it, right?
I know, and I don't know if it's your personal growth or my bad influence or whatever it is, but now you've shifted to the mindset of buy once, cry once. So you buy the thing that you want, and that fits well, but usually that also goes along with a higher price tag.
Yeah, it does.
However,
But then I
then buy
don't
less.
think I buy as much as I used to at all.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Yeah. So just, I think there's a lot of like that self-indulgent culture, and North American culture is very self-indulgent,
Oh, very much so.
right? And so I think it's hard to separate those two and to spend enough time in your own head to decide what those things are for you, because it can look different for everybody. Today, I was teaching social studies and we're talking about regions of Canada and mapping. And we were really fortunate to travel across the country, not last summer, but the summer before. And
2023.
so I had lots of pictures to show the kids, and we're talking through all these things. And a picture popped up, and it was my daughter and I out painting watercolors on the Great Lakes in Ontario. And I thought, oh man, I really loved doing that, and just how good I felt after doing that. And I realized that part of the reason for me, it's easier to be like, I can just pop onto Amazon and buy something and get that quick hit, than to find my watercolors and find time to go out and paint and to make that time to do the thing, because I knew in advance what we were talking about. I did actually think about this prior to this episode. But so like painting is something that is definitely more self-care for me, I think, than self-indulgent. Like, I guess maybe it is indulgent to some point, but there is more of like a creative outlet. And generally I spend time with somebody else while I'm doing it as well. And I feel better for longer after painting than after buying something.
Yeah, well, when you buy something, you always get that immediate buyer's remorse.
So I get the rush of like,
Well,
yeah, about something. But then, yeah, you have the like, oh, I shouldn't have spent that money, or could have used it on something else. Or then you get the thing and it's really not that great. And
yeah, because you bought the thing on sale instead of the thing you wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's where this self-indulgence aspect of things usually comes along with a quick hit and then a long, slow decline. Whereas self-care, and I think a lot of people get into their mind that, oh, I need to do some self-care is I need to take some time out of my regular routine and take special time. And that's not necessarily the case.
No.
I was reading a book or a paper, I don't remember quite now, that was talking about it and made a good point of things like brushing your teeth. That is self-care.
Eating healthy, making
eating
healthy
slightly
choices.
healthier is self-care. Cleaning your room and getting rid of the pile of clothes on the corner chair, that's self-care, because it takes a mental burden and removes it, and it also develops a healthier habit or coping strategy.
Yeah, prioritizing sleep, journaling. And I guess that's more what I was thinking about too. And I didn't have the words when I was just talking to you, but like art therapy, right? For me, drawing can be as therapeutic as writing in a journal. And so there's things like that exercise, talking to somebody else, that can be self-care, including a therapist if that's where you need. And conversely, knowing who not to talk to is also a form of self-care. The boundaries, knowing when you're not in a space to deal with somebody who's maybe a drain on your social battery or in your mental battery, social battery, either one.
Yeah. And some activities can be self-indulgent or self-care, depending on, and that's why it's important to have that in perspective too, because let's take, you mentioned talking with friends, lots of people going out for drinks with my friends is a self-care thing. But if you're going out with friends for a drink, it's different than going out drinking with friends.
Yeah.
Right? One is self-indulgence and has a negative effect on you. And the other one would be more self-care and have a positive effect, because the focus is the friends, not the drink. And I think that's a really important distinction to make. There's lots of things that can be self-care or self-indulgent depending on your focus.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
something...
Well, and I think along with that too, like overcommitting yourself socially too can become a problem, where this is my self-care, is my out with friends time or whatever, then you can overdo it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, if you're using it as an avoiding
Avoidance.
strategy
That's
to,
right. Yeah.
like,
Yep.
my self-care, I'm going out with my friends instead of finishing my laundry.
Well, and then conversely,
or
you have
cleaning
the
my
like,
kitchen.
I'm self-care. It's my self-care day. I can't do that with you. I can't attend this family function. I can't do these things. And then you isolate yourself further. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, if you're
So it can go both ways. You've got to be careful on that.
Yeah, if you're so focused on yourself that you're damaging your relationships, that can be damaging as well.
Yeah, or if you're just feeling overwhelmed and then you just start isolating yourself further too.
Yeah, also true.
Right? So not participating. Whereas I think some sustainable practices for self-care, if you were thinking socially, what would you recommend? Some things that would be actual self-care.
What would I recommend? You're talking to an introvert. So
okay. So what
my
about things
social
like
self-care is to avoid people and build a house on the
Yes.
farm that I can...
So build the house on the farm. This is a good example. What about asking for help when needed?
That's hard.
But is that social self-care?
Maybe.
Okay. What about engaging in fulfilling social activities?
I don't find social activities fulfilling.
But
but
there are some social activities that you find fulfilling.
Yeah, I mean, I do enjoy interacting with people via the social media and by this podcast.
You find that
and
fulfilling,
stuff.
and I do not. So
No.
I don't engage that way because I find that draining and horrible. So I do it a different way.
Yep. You talk to people and have real life meaningful conversations.
I like to see faces.
Yep.
What about respecting personal space?
I can respect lots of personal space. I find it easy to avoid people.
Well, but I think that that's important too, is that if you've been out a lot, to be like, okay, I do need a little bit of time to recharge, or realizing I've been alone a whole lot. Maybe it would be okay for me to, maybe I need to get out and balance that out so I'm not swaying too far one way or the other.
Yeah, and it's an important aspect to remember. Part of your self-care is I think a lot of what self-care really is about identifying the things that give you a benefit and the things that are draining to you. So like for myself, I will fully admit that I am an introvert, and groups of people drain me.
No,
I do not like groups of people. I do enjoy interacting one-on-one with people, and I can do that very well, and I've had lots of experience with it. But when I'm in a large group of people, I just get drained and I want to leave. So in that aspect, I'm an introvert. And understanding that about yourself allows you to create the social dynamics that empower you, I suppose, would be a way to say it, right? So I find one of the reasons that I like interacting with people on social media is because I can focus on one conversation at a time, even though I have maybe 5 conversations going at the same time. I don't have to, when I'm engaging with the one person, I can 100% engage on them and then switch to the next conversation and engage on that person. There's times when there'll be like 3 or 4 people messaging me at once, but I can still focus on one person at a time, versus standing in a room with those same 5 people, I think would make me very uncomfortable.
I don't know, because when we've been in social situations, I feel like you're better at it.
It's probably because I can mask better than you.
I don't know. I'm not a fan of the social conversations online because I have a hard time picking up on what people mean when they text me something. And so then I spend a lot of time and a lot of energy trying to figure out what that 3-word text means.
That's just perfectly normal anxiety.
Yeah.
There's nothing to do with introverted or extroverted. That's pure anxiety on your part.
But it's not self-care for me, so Anyway, it's like emails. That's why I have so many unread ones, because I find them overwhelming.
What's the horrible red number at right now? There isn't a horrible red number in here.
Because I have been doing deleting them because I get lots with school and work and stuff all coming to that email. So
Yeah, when the number is like a 3-4 digit number, it's
Hey.
just makes me uncomfortable on your behalf.
it's, yes.
But again, there's a self-care thing, right? Like recognizing that unread emails
Well,
are a
and okay,
problem,
so
developing a system to put in place to deal
sometimes
with those.
my system is you because I can give you the computer and you can deal with them.
And I unsubscribe from all of the things that you've subscribed to that just add meaningless numbers and junk to your email.
But it's to get free stuff for school. I know. But no, but that's the thing though, right? Like if you are at that point and you're feeling burnt out and you can't deal with it, that where I said before, asking for help is important. And that can be, I can't deal with my emails. It can also be, hey, I need you to do the dishes because sticking my hands in that disgusting water is going to be more than I can handle right now. It's asking for help when you're just at that burnt out stage.
Yeah. It's Brene Brown, right? We were listening to, and she talked about how she does the, hey, I'm at a 10, can you do this thing?
Yeah, with her husband.
Yeah. So that's something.
Yeah, I think I've been trying to do that, be a little bit more like, I am here.
Yeah. Recognizing where you're at on a scale of burnout from 0, I can handle anything, to 10, I'm curled up in a ball crying in the corner. Recognizing that in yourself and being able to communicate that with your partner or your colleagues, wherever you happen to be, gives you more control over yourself.
I'm coming at it from my little neurodiversity lens because that's my area of the world. But also recognizing that I struggled with that concept at first because I struggle with putting a number on things. And we had this discussion the other day. Mm-hmm. And so I'll tell you I'm at a 10, but in my head, I'm like, I am seeing red and I'm going to explode. It has nothing to do with the number. I just say 10 because I know that means to you, I'm done.
The worst.
Right? Like the worst. Because the number scale bothers me. So do what you need to do to figure out like where you're at. I more often have I have pictures in my head. I don't see numbers. I don't see words. I will see pictures. And so I will be like, I am here. I am at the red hot lava volcano stage. So please get away from me before I explode.
You know, you could just use those words instead of being more frustrated by trying to put them to a number.
I'm working on understanding that, yes. As we've been discussing, that's how I work and I get frustrated by things. And so that's what I'm just saying, like, there might be some of you that are like, oh, that would never work for me because of the numbers or whatever. Find some sort of way to be like, okay, like in class, I have like not my current class, but in other classes I've used the green light, yellow light, red light, right? We're at a green light level for noise and everything's going well. Ooh, we hit yellow, we need to readjust. And red, that means we're done, shut it down and reassess where you're at. So it can be just a simple 3-stage thing. Sometimes I don't know about other people, but I feel like a scale of 10 gives a lot of unsettling variability and a lot of like, well, what's a 7 versus a 2? And why is it so different? And it's really a lot easier for me to see, green, yellow, red. All right, got it. Figured it out. I can move on from there. So whatever works for you in the time. What about physical self-care versus indulgence?
Well, I mean, true self-care would be going for a walk versus sitting down and eating ice cream.
Yeah. What about prioritizing sleep?
Sleep is very important. That's why I avoid it.
You're better at it than me.
Well, in some ways. I think your sleep is interrupted by anxiety, not by, again.
Yeah.
Yeah, things like sleep.
Moving your body, eating good food, staying hydrated. All of those things are important. And I don't know about anybody else, but I struggle with all of them. I would much rather live on sugar and do nothing.
Well, I think...
But I can't, I can't. And in my life, I have been blessed with, I don't even know how to describe it, allergies.
You've been blessed with many things that force you to eat healthy food.
Forced me to eat healthy food, forced me to cook healthy food and deal with healthy foods and move away from safe foods. And this is something that we talked about as well, is learning learning what foods you can tolerate, because they're going to be, for me, I find it difficult to maybe gravitate towards vegetables and things because they don't always taste the same, right? One mango is not always going to taste the same as the last mango. Or you have this great apple and then there's the same bag and the next apple tastes like sawdust.
Yeah. One tastes like a
Well,
Honey
oranges are
Crisp
the
and
worst.
The other one tastes like a Red Delicious.
Like those little cutie oranges. You're like, oh, this is the best orange ever. And then the next one tastes like the mold scraped off the bottom of the, it's horrible. Or the texture's wrong, or there's those kind of things. So those are things that you have to try and figure out what works for you. But a lot of times you find people who are gravitating towards those sugary, salty, fatty, beige food things is because they know what they're getting every time.
Well, they know what they're getting, and
it's comforting.
Well, our bodies.
Yeah, you crave that sugar, when you're
fat, sugar, and salt is what our bodies crave. And so, but that being said, as you practice proper self-care nutritionally, your tastes do change. And those things do become more appealing to you, maybe not tremendously. Let's be honest, you're never going to replace ice cream and beef jerky with carrots and celery. However, there is a middle ground.
Ice cream or beef jerky
that you want to. There's a middle ground that can be reached.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing about self-care. It's not self-care versus self-indulgence. It really isn't. Self-care is about being the perfect paragon of humanity. And self-indulgence is being the fat slob who sits on their couch staring at the TV. That's not what we're saying. The balance of self-care and self-indulgence looks different for everybody. And being aware of why you're making a choice versus just being acted on by a craving or by an impulse is what, for me, defines the difference between self-care and self-indulgence.
Yeah. No, for sure.
And that's something I should probably share with you. I've been working on in the background, or I've been thinking about a lot recently. And like cognitive behavioral therapy is a good framework for how I think anyway. So cognitive behavioral therapy basically says you have a cognition, so a thought, and then that thought triggers an action. Right? And so CBT is all about changing those triggering thoughts into positive ones instead of negative ones. And so kind of on that, I was thinking of a couple things. In the Bible, there's a scripture, Proverbs 23:7, that says, as he thinketh in his heart, so he is he. So, like there's been several philosophers through time who've talked about as a man thinks, so he is. And then, so I've kind of thought a lot about this, the difference between self-care and self-indulgence is you can act or you can be acted upon, right? So self-care is acting. It's making a choice and doing that choice. Whereas self-indulgence is being acted upon by a craving, by a marketing campaign, by somebody else. Like you react instead of act. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, I think it ties into what I was thinking about it with my kind of like summation was that self-indulgence is generally that surface level of seeking things, that reactive level of seeking, whereas self-care is more that deeper reflective action period that requires something of you as well. Do you understand what I'm meaning?
Yeah, makes sense. Speaking of self-care and self-indulgence, thanks for having this conversation. But it is getting late, so we should prioritize sleep.
Yes.
And go to bed before midnight.
Yep.
Yeah. So we're back and look forward to... I think it was fairly coherent. But we're looking forward to interacting with people. So send us your questions to
workshoptherapy.com.
Yeah, questions@workshoptherapy.com. And and send me messages on the social media. And if you have questions for Tamara about her master's or anything else, feel free to message me because she will not check her own social media and I will pass them on.
That's very true.
Also, you're also welcome to sign up to Patreon and support us. We have free levels, and there's been several people sign up to the free levels on there. Obviously, there's more content available to the people who support us financially on Patreon, and it really does make a big difference. It is, to be honest, it is 100% the reason why we're still doing this, because otherwise it would be a financial burden. And I do enjoy doing this, but I don't think I could justify doing it without the support of all the wonderful patrons. So thank you. And do you have any closing words? Although I guess you're the host for this episode, so you should do that.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us and talking about the difference between self-care and self-indulgence. We'd love to hear your opinions. Like Andrew said, what do you do? What do you do for self-care? Has anything we said today struck a chord or resonated with you? If so, please share the podcast with somebody you know. And if there's anything that we talked about today that you want more information on, or you just want to let us know about, or you have questions about, or you had an idea that we didn't talk about, we'd love to hear about it.
Absolutely. And now the founding father, thank you. Special request on the style. Our mateys, gather round. We've got a tale to tell about a crew that's not quite seaworthy, but is still sailing these treacherous podcast waters. Aye, they call themselves the founding father patrons of the Workshop Therapy podcast, and though our ship leaks a bit, the treasures mostly mismatched screws and sawdust, they keep us afloat all the same. First, we tip our tattered tricorn to Matthew from Arciano Serio. He's the shipwright to this crew, building fine crafts while we're patching up holes with duct tape. Then there's Brad's Customs, whose custom builds are smoother than the high seas we're trying to navigate, even if our compass is always slightly off course. A toast, well, maybe just a sad wave, to Keith of Blackthorn Concepts, the mastermind who probably would have built a better ship if we'd thought to ask him. Next, there's Eric of Overall Maker Works. Aye, he's the one who brings the grit, the grind, and occasionally the map, though it's upside down most of the time. And Brandon of Tectonic Creations, he's the kind of matey who moves mountains, or at least little bits of wood and steel we can't lift ourselves. Last but not least, there's Grant Alexander. He's like the captain we never deserved, steering us through the storms while we're trying to be fishing with our spoons. To all of ye, thanks for keeping us steady when the ship's barely holding together. We'll raise a glass if we had one, though right now it's just a rusty bucket and some questionable grog. And if